Welcome to UberCube, the place where we discuss all things local homegrown cube events, but with refreshments. This is your host, Anthony Adams, aka Uber Bear, and today I am joined by my partner in crime.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Stu.
Hey, buddy.
How's your day going, buddy?
It's been a challenging week. Lincoln and I were just spoiling our guest already.
There you go.
But yeah, we were just kind of pre-gaming a little bit and saying like this. It seems to have been one of those crazy weeks this week. I don't know what it is, but anyway, well let's talk some Uber Cube.
Well, you got your power giraffe in your hands. I see. That's your comfort giraffe.
This power giraffe.
Jeffrey.
Giraffe is the name of this giraffe.
Stu is currently holding a weird giraffe while we're talking.
And
and he's got
and whatever this is.
A lion that looks like a hippopotamus.
This is actually
it's a vampire lion. I don't know what's going on with that thing.
Okay.
That is weird.
It is kind of cool looking. So these are both hand carved. I got these from Kenya. These are from Africa. I was very fortunate enough about 30 years ago to go to Africa.
I don't want to go to Kenya where they have
wonderful.
Vampire lions. Apparently. I don't know what's going on with that thing.
Yeah.
Hi, Lincoln. How are you doing today? We're not here to talk about
Hey, good evening.
lions.
How's it going?
It's going swell. So before we even go into this idea, we're going to talk about homegrown events, which we've talked about before, but you yourself you're about to experience one of these. You are a maestro right now. You're about to be the MC, correct?
That is right. Yeah, we're kicking off Capital Cube Championship 2025 in just about a week here.
And as of today's recording, which I'm going to future forecast, I'm going to try to release this on the Monday after this conversation. We are fast tracking this. You have a few tickets left. Is that correct?
We do. Yeah, we probably have about 20 tickets left at this point. So if folks are interested in coming and cubing with the Washington, D.C. Cube crew and folks from across the country, we'd love to have you. There's still some room, lots of great cubes to play, and it all's for a good cause.
We're going to talk more about that here in just a second. Before we get going down this path of conversation of how you, the listener, can potentially host your own local, whether it be a just 8-player, 32-player, 24, 64, 128, whatever your heart may desire, right? Whatever you feel like you're audacious enough to take on. We're going to kind of talk about that and how everybody in this room's kind of been a part of this idea. But let's go ahead and get to our drinks. How about yourself, Lincoln? What are you having on this delightful Friday evening?
Well, it is that time of year when Oktoberfest Märzens are in season, so I am drinking an Oktoberfest beer from Parish Brewing.
Have you ever been to Oktoberfest? That is on my bucket list. I want to go to Munich so bad.
I have not, and I have a friend who lives in Germany that I have been meaning to visit because it does seem like an absolute blast. And what better excuse than having a friend there to go do it with?
Oktoberfest to Cube. But we Oktoberfest as a priority. Wouldn't that be amazing?
I think
that would be great.
I think what we need, eventually it could happen. I think if Cube explodes as a format and we can get like all the sponsorship that we need to go and do like an Oktoberfest would be incredible. We need to go to Edinburgh and go to Hogmanay. We need to just travel around Europe to all these cool events.
To Cube
and to sell the idea.
Global festival
Cube.
Circuit.
Exactly.
The global festival Cube
exactly.
Circuit.
Let's go to Woodstock. Let's go to the Reading Festival. Let's just go wherever we can to promote Cube.
Burning Man Cube.
Burning Man, exactly.
I am having a hazy little thing, IPA by Sierra Nevada. How about yourself, Stu?
I've got a glass of wine. I'm just kind of feeling something nice and light, so I'm having me a pure bright glass of Pinot Grigio.
All right, so today I wanted to talk about with you, Lincoln, specifically. You're on your, I guess, sophomore outing here for the Capital Cube Championships. And I wanted to kind of just leave this kind of an open show notes, not really, just an interview about like how you formed this idea, how the listeners could go about doing this. We can go over some of the logistical matters, how you did cube selection, how'd you choose numbers, how'd you choose venue, if you're okay with talking about associated cost, about the fact that you're linked to charity. I want to kind of just go over this. This is going to be a very much you on the spotlight and just inform people how they too, if they wanted to kick this off, they could do this themselves. So... And
let's be clear, we're kind of putting this forward as this is very kind of public event driven, right? So
Right.
yeah, obviously getting 8 of your friends or however many you're fortunate enough to have in your group and be able to get together and get a cube game going or whatever. But what we're talking about is the ability to not just play cube, but use cube as an engine to be able to, and I don't know if maybe this is a little cliche, but kind of for the power of good, right?
Camaraderie,
Bit of
meeting
camaraderie, raise money for good causes, just sort of do the right thing and use cube as, like I say, the engine for getting the message across.
We actually, Lincoln, I know this is the longest prologue to a question ever, but we actually were just talking about this. So we are trying to figure out as our group, and we've talked about this in a while, how can we, I've got this trifecta, this dream of things that I want to do better in the world. And one is anything related to children. Say Make-A-Wish Foundation,
St. Jude's, all that kind
Ronald
of stuff.
McDonald House,
Yeah.
everything. I've always been kind of intertwined these ideas. The second one is like the Wounded Warrior Project type idea. This concept of veterans that are dealing with, long-term trauma, not processing, and how do I get outreach? And then the third one, anything associated with marginalized groups like trans life, any kind of you can go down civil rights disputes, anything where people are being treated unjustly, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
You pick your subject on that, but there's a lot of different, and I want to know more about that because I know Scott Mertz just did Cube for Charity, and that was highly successful.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think Scott has really set the gold standard for running cube events for charity now. Running Cube for a Cause 2 times a year up there in Brooklyn. And picking really great causes in each case. So that was something that I also wanted to make sure we did when we did Capital Cube Championship. The first time last year, and then again this year. And I think it's kind of a core part of the identity of the event now is this idea of, hey, this is about getting our community together, having some great cubing, having a great time playing Magic, but we're also doing it to raise money for an important cause, right? So, for me, that was really just like I think a useful motivating factor. We get together to play cube all the time. What makes this special day, any different? And I think it really is about that. Hey, we're doing it for a cause that's above and beyond just getting together with our friends. So that was really my main reason for wanting Capital Cube to be a charity event from the start. And we've supported different charities each year. Last year we supported an organization called So Others Might Eat that provides food, housing, healthcare, all sorts of assistance to the unhoused and people in need in the Washington, D.C. area. And this year, we're donating all of the proceeds from the event to an organization here in D.C. called Whitman Walker Health, which provides inclusive healthcare to more than 20,000 individuals in D.C. They sponsor and fund research to end the HIV/AIDS epidemic, and they work to eliminate all sorts of health disparities in DC. So, in both cases, I think, I was really looking for a charity that was local to the DC area, that was, actively and immediately serving, parts of our community. And I think, this now more than ever, with a lot of funding being cut for organizations that are doing this kind of work, I think it's really important for all of us to kind of step up and do what we can. So that was what really motivated me to pick Whitman Walker for our charity support this year. And I'm really excited to be partnering with them in that, because it's an important cause and one that I think all of us that are here supporting Capital Cube, helping make run Capital Cube, and all the players coming out to play and support the charity, I think can all get behind.
So before we go down like the organizational methods, or talking about you and I talking at one point at Uber Cubathon, and you making yours frankly better, right? I mean, you've done a great job. I want to go into some of the like complexities of what you talked about. Like as a listener, and they're hearing this and they're like, oh, I could collaborate with my local LGS that may have the means to do this more, and you could point towards a charity of your liking, something local like a food kitchen or a food bank, or some kind of health thing that you're looking at, something to support your local communities. It could even be like libraries, doesn't matter, right? Something to help that idea. But I want to go into the complexities of that, because I saw a challenge, and I don't want to go into the exact challenge that you provided, but I saw something that was statement was made on a certain Discord that you interacted with when someone used the word volunteer for a certain situation for a large event, and you challenged them on the tax kind of the statements they were using. I believe that was you. Like, in order to be a not-for-profit, in order to donate, how do you go about like the taxes and how to get the money to the charity? And this is going into complex stuff, but how do you deal with that? Is it like a 1099 or I'm asking this?
Yeah,
is real.
this is a great question. So we're getting deep in the weeds of how to run a charity event.
Well, charity sounds great on paper until you have to actually do it from a tax perspective. I thought it's worth talking about.
So no, that's a great point. Yeah. So as it kind of works with Capital Cube, last year when I ran the event, I stood up an LLC to run the event, and because that LLC is a corporation in the eyes of the IRS, it is just a profit-making entity. So even though, I brought in some amount of money from the event, the ticket sales, and everything that did not go to covering our costs, so paying for the venue, paying for the judges, paying for software to run the event, Hedron Network, I think it was kind of those were the three main buckets of cost. Every other dollar, I donated to So Others Might Eat. But at the end of the year, the IRS looks at that and goes, hey, we see you brought in a bunch of money, and we'd like our cut of that, because that's profit, right? So I had to pay a tax bill on top of that. I think in theory, if I'd been smart, I would have cut the tax bill or calculated it out and subtracted that and added that to the cost, but I didn't, and so I ended up kind of eating that. So this year, I'm in the process of filing with the IRS to get actually recognized as a 501c3. So going through that paperwork, I've submitted the application to the IRS. We're going to come back and forth on some of the details and whatnot. I don't think we'll be a 501c3 in time for the event because that's just a week out here. But my goal is to have that, in the next, couple of months here, and the next year will actually be a 501c3 nonprofit, and actually not be taxed in that way. So it'll all be able to be passed through to our other entity.
Well,
sorry, to the entity that we're sponsoring.
Because it's easy to romanticize this, right? Like everybody wants to save the world. I mean, we all do. We all want to do good. And it's easy to say, but I thought it was interesting to kind of pick your brain on that, because you are going through those trials and tribulations of, the tax man, right? I mean, that nobody can hide from the taxes. Taxes.
It's not. It should not be an understated part of any process of running anything where money is involved, and that money is not going from whoever is paying that money into your bank account, right? It's easy if you've got a job and everything gets reported to the IRS, or you've got, other income streams, and then you just write that in a line when you're doing your tax return. But now all of a sudden you've got those considerations like, hang on a second, this is money that technically I am taking in, and when I am taking it in, that doesn't necessarily have to refer to you as an individual. It could be an LLC that you have or whatever. But now, like you say, you've got these other considerations where you want to just take that money and do the right thing with it. But unfortunately, the history is resplendent with individuals who have attempted and in many cases successfully abused the crap out of that system. And now this is why we are where we are, and the details are kind of the devil.
Yeah, I almost responded to that conversation the other day, and nobody thought they were going to get like accounting 101. Most people don't know that like my degree is also in avionics, but also in business. And then I was looking at you talking about this, and like, oh my God, I want to talk about this so bad, but I'm going to be quiet. But like safe harbor taxes, when someone was talking about printing recently, I think someone on the MTG Talk Discord was talking about, was that you also engaged in this conversation, or someone else talking about what's the ethical amount of printing you can do in your office? It may have been someone else. Oh. Yeah. You seem to get entangled to a lot of conversations.
There was a joke about that.
I am chopping at the bit.
There were some jokes about that. I think at the end of the day, like it's important to make sure you're following like the laws and the rules, and that includes taxes. But I think if I had to offer just any advice to anyone who is like running an event like this, there's a couple of ways to handle it. But if you are interested in running an event like this and doing it for charity, I mean, I think that my recommendation, and I just say this as someone who got burned by the tax man because of this, like just assume that 30% of your profits are going to be paid go to taxes, and cut that out and just treat that as part of your cost, right? And unless you're somehow registered as a nonprofit yourself, like that's just the way to handle it. And then if you do that, I think it's a pretty straightforward
gains tax. Right.
It's not even that. It's just treated as straight up income.
It's
treated as income.
Yeah, it's income.
Yeah.
But that's something. As we kind of went down that rabbit hole, because the romantic idea is that I'm going to, again, save the planet, right? So there's a pro and con to this. This is kind of the conversation that Stu and I talked about. And this is where both Lincoln and I kind of diverged on these ideas. So I hosted mine in LGS for a multitude of reasons. And we've talked about this before, but when I went to the LGS, they had the insurances, they had basically the homeowner's insurance, liability insurance, right? Slip and falls, anything like that. So
anyone gets card stolen, anyone hurts themselves, anyone gets rowdy,
so
that's someone else's
get
liability.
Stolen, they had an honor system in place that they would help replace that. I don't know what that means until it happens, right? But that's a whole different conversation. You hope that doesn't happen, but that is something that you, the person listening to this, there is complexities to this idea that can be a little bit like, we're not trying to scare anybody off. This is meant to be informative. I want to be truthful about that. I knew Lincoln, by the way, I knew you were the perfect person to quiz on this, right? You're going over like 503Cs, 501Cs or whatever. It's awesome. 1099s. We can do all this all day. But I think it's fascinating that I want to start a Cube event. I want to have people come over. I want to have them come to my house. I want to have that. But not to scare people away, but there is a certain amount of like personal liability you are taking on with this concept that you should be aware of. But to each their own, do it. So we chose the platform of an LGS to thrice remove ourselves to a certain situation. All we really had was ultimately the first time I was sweating bullets because of credibility of the podcast. If we fell short, frankly, we look a little dumb, like egg on the face, right? We can't get people to come. Embarrassment was what I was going to absorb. The second time around, I'm a lot more relaxed. It was a lot more kind of cookie cutter, copy paste, right? Are you in copy paste mode with this one at this point? First one's a little sweaty for you. Am I wrong? Now you copy paste?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. I think like anything in life, right? The more you do it, the more you get like, okay, I have the muscle memory to be able to do this. And so I think we're definitely more on a glide path this time, having done this before and having also just like, it's kind of the Isaac Newton quote of I stand on the shoulders of giants, like having been to a lot of these events now, having been to both your events, having been to the events Greg has put on through Vertex, having been to the Boston Q Party earlier this year. I've seen a lot of folks doing it now. And so it's not just a matter of, I've done it once before, but also like I've seen other folks do it. And so there's a lot like to learn. Oh yeah, these things do work. You need to remember these things. But I think the important thing to remember with any of these events is it really is just a question of scale and your own like kind of risk appetite, right? So, I have people over to my house to cube all the time. And, I just do that, as me and I don't have any concerns there. Like, hey, it's just a small group of people coming over. We're firing a couple of pods of cube. Like, great, it's a good time. I think there's lots of ways you could, or we'll do that in a bar, for example, and it's no different. And I think when you're holding an event that's 8, 16, even 30 people, right? Like, that's a fairly small and contained kind of thing. And a lot of times when you're doing that, you're doing it with people that, you know them really well. You've been cubing with them for a long time. I think for me, at least, and this is, again, just my own personal comfort, when you open it up to the public, it's public event. Anybody can come, I think one of the great joys about it for me is that like this event has been a way to meet people from the cube community across the greater DC area that I never would have met otherwise. So, folks from Maryland or from, other parts of the area who are just as much part of our great, local cube community, but because, it's a fairly distributed geographic region, I wouldn't necessarily meet them or cube with them frequently. And so it's been great for that. But when you open it up to the public, I think it just, does create, a little bit more uncertainty that can potentially come with that. And
more risk.
I think that's sure. When, what's that?
I was saying there's more risk. It's inherently more risk because you don't know and you don't have a way to personally hold people accountable if they're just showing up because they've paid, an entrance fee or whatever, right? It's different if you're doing something at your house. Generally, the people that show up to your house to play with you are people that you have invited, or maybe someone that a friend, right? Someone that you trust has said, hey, someone is going to come or someone is interested in coming. Are you okay if they come into your home? And I know, I will say for me, my wife is extremely protective of her house and our family. she would expect me to at least do my due diligence, but at least expect me to have some kind of understanding of the people that were coming into our house, right? I have younger children. She would want me to make sure that everything was good for them. But now you're getting outside of that, right? It's not just in your house, it's in another location, as well as all the financial details, but now there's a level of trust that you don't have because it's not just people that you're close with.
But I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Like,
I think it's amazing.
That's
I think it's necessary.
Yeah, well, I'll say one thing about that. So one thing, we have our Discord server, right, for the event, and I post that link publicly and widely, and I share it around, and we have a website and everything. So we get all sorts of people coming in and joining the Discord server and coming to the event, which is great. And something I'll do when people join the server is I'll go and look, and you can see on their Discord profile, who their friends are. Do you have mutual friends? And I would say 99% of the time, it's somebody who I'm like, oh, they already know 3 people, even though I've never heard of this person before. I've never met them. They are friends with people I know and I've cubed with before. And so like, this really is part of our greater community of cubers. And so, all this to say, again, there's obviously some risk associated with doing a public event like that, but I don't want to scare people off from it, because I think that, we've seen dozens of these events now. And if there's one thing I've taken away from all these events is like, Cube is a very welcoming and open-minded and friendly community, and folks generally are there because they know somebody else there, and they're generally part of this, like this, they truly are kind of part of this community. I think it was Andy said this on Lucky Paper Radio a week or two ago, something along the lines of, when the first CubeCon was held, like, it was kind of ridiculous to call Cube a community, because there was no actual, like, there was no community. It was not like there were people who had a shared hobby, but it was not that these people actually knew each other, actually talked to each other a lot. It wasn't that they actually spent time together. And I think we're just at a different place now, with this community of like it being a real community. It's we all kind of tend to know each other. And so you're generally going to be working with people who do have some connection to that group. And I think that for me, brings a lot more comfort with, like, yeah, we're doing this event, and everyone there is there because they know somebody else in most cases.
And I agree with that totally. But I'm going to go devil's advocate. I think it's still a good idea, if you're prudent and you have procedures in place, SOPs, like countbacks, face-up countbacks, Cube Curator check-ins, things like that. These type of things, it's not that they're bad actors. It stops happy little accidents, right? Like the magic card stuck on the bottom of my shoe on the way to the bathroom. I mean, these are things that, as you run your event, that we were very careful with, very cautious with, that we had a table. And when you came to the table, we had a countback sheet and display your cards, please. And we had like a sheet that we had like a little Excel spreadsheet that said X amount of cards, X amount of packs, checked out to X amount of person. We didn't do photographs, but we fanned them out and we go, all right, cool. Anthony and Chuck brought back their 45, full check-in. All right, cool, got that. We're still missing X amount of cards from the cube. They come and check in. We try to control the chaos. So when you run these events, and one of the major things that you need to make sure of is that the curators have put a lot of time into the curation, the design of these environments. When we talked about this on an episode that's going to come out in the future, they've put foils in there. They've put full art treatments in there. They put sleeves in there. They put time. Time is actually what they put the most in there. Lots of time. And so treating that time with the respect as the homegrown event runner, you need to be on guard, right? You need to be on point. And it's not that you need to be suspect or treating. This is a great community.
You're doing your due diligence. But I do want to kind of, like, really, for me, what was evident, right? And I cannot agree more with. It's hilarious how, like, CubeCon was, the OG CubeCon way back was just like, let's do an event, and you've just got a bunch of people that show up to Cube together, right? And then all of a sudden, we're accelerating now to where we've got the greater community and sub-communities. And I feel like, especially for local events like that, you can really push on the community identity of the group, of the players that are playing, of the people that you're representing, of whatever cause you might be representing. That in and of itself is such a powerful weapon, a powerful tool, because you're doing something that means much more and is a greater thing than just, hey, we're getting together to play a game with a bunch of these, for the most part, overly priced pieces of cardboard, right? We're all getting together. We all trust each other. We all love each other. We all love that we have this common goal and this common interest, and we're doing this in a way where we are, as Anthony, you so eloquently put, trying to make the world a better place, right? So I think those factors by themselves, they carry so much weight when you've got events like this going on.
So let's go into logistics, Lincoln. Let me ask you, how did you choose the cubes? What is the general idea? What's the vibe? What are you looking for?
Yeah, great question. So I opened it up, open submissions of cubes from anyone who wanted to submit them, and then people had a form. People could submit their cubes in there, and then just kind of went through. And there were a couple of criteria I looked for. Number one, I really wanted to showcase a lot of local cubes, cubes from folks across the DC area. Number two, I looked at cubes that were really popular last year at our event. Number three, I looked at cubes that have been popular, generally speaking, at cube events. So there's a fairly sizable data set of this now from the data Hedron Network collects of, hey, here are the cubes that get the most votes, generally speaking, across cubes. So I looked at that. And then finally, I looked at, kind of how do I have a diversity of different cube types, to cube styles, right? So that we have a lot of options that kind of cater to everyone's different tastes. And so really kind of just tried to open it up as wide as possible in that regard. And, it's one of those things that it's funny, we just opened up our Hedron Network thing yesterday. And so, people can go in and start ranking their cubes. And so I can see people's, what the overall votes are, how many votes each one is getting. And it always is fascinating to me how all over the place, there's cubes that have, it's very common for the cubes that have the most votes to also be the cubes that have the most excludes. So it's like, there are cubes that are extremely divisive. And so how do you cater to everyone? It's like, well, you have to have some of those, but you also have to have some ones that are palatable to everybody that no one's excluding.
I personally experienced this. No shade, but the Monopoly Cube was well received at your aftermath party. People liked it. At CubeCon, nobody liked it. I have removed it from the criteria. This is just something that we have to take. That's a whole different conversation.
That's because people don't generally like desert cubes.
I don't think they like the word Monopoly. The word Monopoly.
This is interesting too.
I'm kidding.
It was
so I've talked to a couple of the other. Well, I've talked to a couple other event organizers around this. I'm curious if this has been your perception. Doing your event down in North Carolina is like, it seems like each event and each local cube community definitely has very slightly different tastes for like what is a good cube. So I think the really notable example that jumps out to me is that the DC area basically has no desert cubes. Like it's extremely rare. We have one this year from Steven, one of our local cube designers who designed a really awesome desert cube called the Depleted Lands that I'm like super excited to see in action this weekend, next weekend. But that's like the exception that proves the rule, and then you go, I was down in Tulsa for Bones, kind of, small, mid-sized, little cube event he put on for his birthday, his and Kate's birthday. And, there it's not just the fact that like each of them has designed
Bones,
desert cubes, but like
vote?
other people in the community.
Bones. I'm just going to point that out. We didn't get a birthday invite, bro.
I know.
Come on, man. Come on. We didn't get notified on this. This is news. Let me ask you another question in regards to platforms. So the Hedron Network is what most of these are using. And I would go ahead and argue that's the premier. May I ask out loud, if you're willing to say it, what's the associated cost? If Gwen
it's a couple $100, yeah, for having it for the weekend, which to me is like is totally worth it.
That is cheap. I would argue that's cheap. Not just that.
If you, that's good. I think that's one of those things where it's like if you've never bought software for anything before, you're like, that seems like really expensive, and then you're like, oh no, buying like software for any kind of actual like event, any kind of enterprise thing is like an extremely expensive thing. And so I really think that is, that's Gwen has put a lot of work into this, and it's worth every penny, because it really does make the experience a lot more seamless, a lot more enjoyable for the players.
Well, it's designed for this purpose, right? So how many people out there are designing software? I work within the world of this in some capacity, not specifically. I don't write magic software, but some kind of software design. I don't really do that anymore, but I have, and I kind of anyway. people don't understand how much time and effort and detail and potentially time and money can go into creating a product that is so custom and so specific for something like that. If you went out right now and said, I just want to have someone create a platform, especially one that is as comprehensive as his is, as well as has, you know, all the features and is so custom for running this kind of event, you'd be paying through the nose. It'd be crazy expensive. So I will say that categorically, if I was looking to run an event, I would be very happy with it.
I want to shift over to our environment where we offset the cost onto the LGS. The actual load of the liability and the cost and the pricing, we did monetize. We didn't. To be clear, for transparency, Stu and I made nothing.
No.
I net negative big time.
I net very negative.
I made mine into a weekend. So the official event, and this is something we're going to talk about in your event, the official event was on a Saturday. Friday before, I went out and we did a local like food hall type situation, because I think this is important.
Yeah.
If you're going to host an event, people are traveling to your event. They may be coming from, our good friend Brian comes from Cincinnati. Our good friend Steven comes from New England. These people are buying plane tickets and or driving long distances to come hang out with you. So you need to make this into an experience, not like, oh, here's your compartmentalized 8 hours. I hope you had a great time. Here's your thing. And the trophies are fantastic. The pins are something, but I want to make the juice worth the squeeze, right? I mean, I ultimately do. Like, I want to make it into an experience. So I think a pre-party is fun for people who show up early, or having restaurants they can go to if they come into super early, or maybe museums, or having things to do in the local area. In our case, we said go to the Duke Gardens, which is gorgeous, a Raleigh thing, right?
It's great. Duke Gardens is beautiful.
It's gorgeous, right? So we wanted to provide entertainment outside of the event. So when you come up, or I'll come out and have dinner with you, we'll go eat somewhere or whatever, go have a drink, but it has nothing to do with Cube. I think this is important. And then you got your actual event, and then you have your post. And I saw that you did a post. Your post is for the people who are the maniacs that want to keep cubing or whatever. So maybe have a beer garden, but something non-affiliated with the event that they can just continue to, like, I want to go till Sunday at 10 p.m., whatever.
Well, this is why it was important this was something that I wanted to organize for both the Uber Cubathon events. So it was an after party. So on the Sunday after the event, I'm fortunate enough, I live in a neighborhood. I have a wonderful HOA. We have a facility, we have a pool and a clubhouse that we can rent. It's only $100 for the day. And so I said to Anthony, I'm going to rent this for the whole Sunday after the event. All the people that we are familiar with and their friends will be invited. We're going to go there, jam up.
Or celebrate your curators. Because they put time. They invested
we get
in
to
your
know
main
them.
day,
We
right?
get to know them as well.
They're your
so
main day people.
That's part
so
of that.
I think there's a certain value in that idea.
Yeah.
So you trusted me with your 8, 12, 15 cubes, right? And you've allowed us during this main event to utilize these environments that you've put time and care into. And you trusted Lincoln and Anthony to get these back to you. Thank you so much.
Well, plus we didn't
Here's
play.
your Friday, here's your Sunday.
Yeah,
right?
plus we didn't play at our event. We were very particular about this when we first organized it.
Prepare to be on and bring coffee.
Yeah, we said, look, we're not going to play in the Uber Cubathon event. Neither of us did. We had friends that did. But we said, no, we wanted to be there to promote Cube, to promote our event, to, do the organization, do the deck check-ins, do any of the administrative stuff that is so necessary when you're running an event like that. So for us, it was nice to have that.
I'm of the opinion, and I saw you, Lincoln, you were sitting there at the helm the whole time. I kept taunting you last year. I was probably the only person that consumed 9 IPAs and made it to your top 8, which was really, really uncomfortable. I'm on vacation mode. I'm Anthony in the Bahamas right now.
Well, Anthony is not a competitive
I let my
Magic
hair down
player.
a little bit too much.
Anthony's not trying to win any prizes. Anthony's going there to try and have a little fun.
But I built some banger
and then
decks.
all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh,
like,
what is
top
this?
8.
I'm in the top 8. There's no
top
way.
8. I got a mat. And I'm like, oh, dear God, I got to play again. I was sitting next to, in Capital Cube Champs, Anthony Maddox. And Anthony Maddox was so cool, and he bought me a beer from Lucky Paper Radio. He's like, have a beer. I'm like, thank God. There's no way. I'm going to chill. And they're going to go get food. The Lucky Paper Radio guys are going to get food. And I'm like, I'm just going to have a beer with you. Thanks, man. And then one of you guys come out and go, hey, Anthony. And I went, hey, Anthony, you're up. And he goes, I don't know. I go, Anthony. I'm like, it's got to be Anthony Adams. I'm like, oh my God, it's me. And I had to get up, stand up, go back into the room and go play. And I sat at that table full of players that are far superior to me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm just going to crack a beer. And I kept walking up to you, trying to break your attention. I'm like, please, can you drink a beer? Now, like, no, I'm helming the computer. I'm tracking scores. So my point is, as the person running the event, and this is why you were stoic the whole time. I was so impressed with you. More stoic than me even, right? Like, I was walking around even at Uber Cubathon having a beer, asking people how they're doing. You're on the whole time. So as an organizer, you really have a responsibility to make sure your event runs smoothly. And that's something that I even learned from you, because I'm just walking around going, are you having fun? I'm the fun police. Let's have fun. And that kind of fell a little short when you're running this operational system. So back to the idea of the platform you're on Heatron Network. That does require a certain amount of tension.
Yeah, no, and I think you're totally right? Like when you're running one of these events, it does require a certain amount of kind of like making sure everything's running smoothly, making sure everything's ending up in the right place. You're kind of like orchestrating a ballet. Cubes going in, cubes coming out, players getting started, drafts firing, drafts going to time in rounds, and whatever. And so kind of keeping track of all those things does require some attention and whatnot. But I think that for me, that is like I get to cube all the time, just with friends and whatnot. And so this is one weekend a year where it's like it's not about me getting to cube. It's about how do I get other folks to have an opportunity to try out some new cubes they haven't tried before, to have a good time with playing with folks they haven't necessarily played before.
And to that
I think that's like the really
that point, there's a certain amount of sacrifice that you have to be willing to do. In this case, I had 3 of my cubes slotted in. Because of numbers, I think we landed at 59 of 64, which made for odd tables at the Uber Cubathon you showed up. I intentionally removed all my cubes. You always slot. I think anybody hosting these events should be very cognizant of the idea that when you have other curators, especially those ones that have traveled from afar, right? They've spent money, they spent time to come here. In this case, Justin Parnell. He was one of our people. Justin Parnell is going to take precedent over any of my cubes, mm-hmm. right? So in this case, I'm like, nope, Uber Cube's artifact or Uber Bear's artifact cube is no longer in the event. Justin Parnell's is going forward. That's just the way that you need to do that. So you have to kind of set your own personal interest, your own personal ego. I want reps. I want data on my personal cube, and focus on the people who have contributed, and focusing more on the ones who have traveled a further distance, in my opinion, or you have a tight friendship with. Because I told Chris Samich, you're next on the cutting list. I've cut all mine. You're out next, right? Pauper Peasant. We're going to cut one of those two. If we don't
that's sacrilege.
But we have to make those
sacrilege.
You have to make those sacrifices in order to make this event move smooth, because it's very dynamic. Things are changing. People might not come back.
We're also very fortunate that we have a group of people. Like we said, hey, we're doing Uber Cubathon. And all of our group, all of our local friends that we play with, immediately were like, all right, cool, yeah, we'd love to show up. They'll buy a ticket. Chris, he was the one that showed up. He's got his cubes, but anything we needed him to do and help out, he was willing to do. Like, we're very, very fortunate that we have a support group for our podcast and for the event and for anything else. Like, I have no doubt that if we all of a sudden said, hey, we want to do this because we want to support a charity or we have a good cause or whatever, we have the support of the people that are around us. And then this is where I'm reinforcing the community aspect and what has, I think organically it has to be like this. You can start from a community as a whole, But eventually, it's going to become localized, and this is where you can really start to make things happen, because now you have local support. Now you have people that you say, I'm going to put on a Cube event, and you know you're going to have a bunch of people that are going to buy tickets or are going to help out or are going to promote or whatever the case may be. And we have been, I will say this, very fortunate that we've been in that position.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a really great point, Stu, and it really is like building up that community over time that makes these kinds of things possible. Like, I don't think I kind of got started in, if you can call it, I don't really think of it as me having any kind of like organizing role in our greater DCQ community at this point. But a couple of years back, I just started up a group chat for people I met at LGSs, who I would go to LGS for FNM. And I would draft with somebody, and I would sit down and play, and then I would start everything by saying, "Have you ever played Cube before?" And they would go, "No, what's Cube?" And I would go, "Let me tell you about the best format you've never heard of." and kind of slowly grew this thing to where we had dozens and dozens of people in this group chat. And I don't think I would have been confident enough. And this is all people that had Cube with at some point, right? And so in the area, I don't think I would have been confident enough to even have hosted this event in the first place if I didn't know, hey, there's this group of people who I know are chill. I know like cubing. I know would love to do an event like this, and I kind of have that base of support here. And I think that is building that up over time is really like a kind of a critical first step. And there's lots of ink has been spilled and lots of words have been said by people a lot smarter about this than me on how to kind of get that local cube community going. So I'll just point folks to that. But all that to say, I think that's kind of like a necessary precondition for hosting an event like this. But it gets you to a point where a lot of this stuff can, if anything does change or slip up or whatever, you do have those folks you can kind of draw back on. So I'll give one quick example. Is like one of the cubes that we're going to have in our event, the Alada by Alex, who some people might know from the MTG Cube Talk Discord, is going to be in the event. It was in the event last year, and Alex had a conflict come up, and he's not going to be able to make it to the event anymore. But he was like, "Hey, look, I'll just drop off the cube at your house. You keep it for a week or two, run it at the event, like it'd be great." And I was
That's
like, great.
Incredible.
Is that possible? Unless there's that kind of that trust that you build up from having this,
not even a little bit.
But we get to a point where that does exist, and that's really what makes these kinds of things possible.
So I want to talk about these barriers of entry. So we talked about the Hedron network, which is the premier. It's the S tier, right? It's designed for cube events. But it does have an associated cost. So you, the listener, I don't think I can do that. I don't want to do all this tax stuff. I don't want to do.
So here's the thing: you don't need that to do an event like this, right? So I'll point people to there's a thing called MTG Arena.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with this tool. Yeah. So MTG Arena is great. It's not the MTG Arena you're thinking of. It is a different MTG Arena. Just Google MTG Arena. Ignore all the results that are from Wizards, and there's a website that's called MTG Arena, and it just has a tool for doing pairings of pods of 6 or 8 or however many people you have in your pod, and you can open up multiple tabs on your computer. You can open up, hey, we got a 32-person event. We're gonna have 4 pods. Great. Here's our 4 cubes. Here's the people in each pod, and it lets you track the results across all those things. It does the Swiss pairings for you and everything. So that tool, it is free. It's available for anyone. It's if you have a phone, you can access it anywhere in the world. And that's all you need to run an event like this. Like it'll be a little bit more work. It'll be a little more fiddly. You might have to open up Excel and track some things and whatever. But it'll do the work for you, and it costs $0.
And then there's
no barrier.
There's another one. The LGSs oftentimes have companion, which is also clunky.
That's right.
Also clunky. But now the first year we did companion, which resulted in buys and draws, and it was a whole thing don't do IDs, intentional draws. It was a whole I don't know. It was a culture around the idea of people coming to do competitive Magic that we had to account for, where they would do IDs. Right?
I think what this actually leads on to a great next part of this discussion. Okay. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. We were actively discouraged, right, or told to actively discourage people from intentionally drawing.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something that they said, look, you really can't do that because it's going to mess up integrity and the results and how we plan and all this kind of stuff.
You can't intentionally ID because it's a known
You
quantity
cannot,
in the competitive scene.
And I will admit, this was at our first event. I had a huge problem with it because I said, look, IDs have been a part of competitive Magic forever, right? You get to a point where your record is what it is. It actually makes the most sense for two players to intentionally draw, and ultimately it's not enforceable because ultimately what you can do is those two players can just say, we're just literally going to play a land and pass the turn until time. No one's going to attack. You can't accuse them of collaboration or anything. I mean, it is what it is, right? If they want to draw, they can do so. So I feel like having a tool that is kind of has that consistency with the kind of rules that people are used to, especially anyone that has experience with competitive Magic. I'm not a competitive player, but I am certainly familiar enough with it that if I was in a position score-wise and there was prizes on the line or ego, stakes, whatever, I would be a little surprised if someone said, I am going to implement this rule set that is inconsistent with how Magic has usually been run.
It was openly frowned upon.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And I believe you actually did a write-up on the pros and cons of that, which I found fascinating. Lincoln, I'll actually include that in the show notes. If I can find it, you can send that to me again. But I think that's kind of the learning curve of setting up these events is what best practices, right? What works doesn't work. We shifted this year to Melee. Again, we offset cost. We had to go with the familiarity of the store. They did not want to inject the idea of Hedron Network into an LGS because their judges were running the platform. That's kind of the pros and cons. So if you're going to run this homegrown like you did, you're helming the computer. And I love the Hedron Network. It's the ideal situation, right? Cost and time. You must be behind the helm. If you're a person that doesn't have that level of control where you shifted all these liabilities, all these ideas to an LGS, they may have incorporated the idea of what's comfortable for them and their judges, and so now you must make concessions. And that's something to consider because there is a pro and con to both sides of these ideas. Lincoln, you can control this atmosphere more from your type of perspective. I turned over a lot of my control to the LGS because I don't have to LLC up. I don't have to do all these protections, slip and falls, all this, right? So I shifted, not only to shift the blame, the responsibility, but I also give up a certain amount of, I guess, agency in this idea, right? I'm going to be the maitre d', but I'm kind of a partner now, less of the admin of the event. That's something for you to think about, the listener. And we're not trying to make this overly complex, but these are considerations.
I will actually say that we became, dare I say, the sponsor for Uber Cubathon, right? Our name was on it as far as the podcast is concerned. We were doing all the promotion. We were doing all the organization.
Butts and chairs.
But everything else, as far as the liability, that all came down to the store. So they were the ones that took all the money. They handled the prizes.
Ticket sales,
they had the venue.
taxes,
all of that stuff was handled by them. Now, I would sort of argue that the fact that we were just doing this as a fun event, right? So it was easy for us. It was convenient for us to pass it off. I'll be honest and say that if I was going to do another one and put the time in, I will say that I did a lot of I was the one running pick one, pack ones on Cube Cobra and running drafts on Cube Cobra of featured cubes and putting them on social media and putting links
Uber
on there.
Coastathon
Uber Coastathon, yeah, absolutely.
Uber Coastathon
and I'm happy to put my name
details
to stuff, right? I would be very happy to put the name of our podcast, my own name, whatever. If I was going to go to the effort that I put in and to a triplicate, quadruplicate, whatever amount of effort that Anthony put in, I think I would want to have a greater level of control than I think we had over the first couple. I think I would want to say no. I would much prefer to LLC up, establish a charity organization, take the money, whatever I got to pay as an outlay, which obviously it wasn't free for us to do. Like I spent hundreds of dollars to have this event that we had for Uber Cubathon. But if I wanted to do this again, it would be to put my name to it, to LLC up, to have the money go to charity. If it was more work, if it was more time, whatever. But I think just to have that greater control, I think I would prefer that.
Yeah, no, I think that there's pluses and upsides and downsides to doing both. I do think if you just want to if your only goal coming in is like, hey, I want to have an event. LGSs are great because they have space, they have judges, they have infrastructure to kind of make these things happen. They have experience like running Magic events. And so, if you're coming in saying, hey, I just want to make something happen for my local community, I think they can be a really awesome, vector for that.
The con is they're not familiar with Cube. That's it. We'll just say
this is true. They tend to not be.
Duck.
Yeah,
we're the duck.
And I think that's something you kind of have to just explore with your individual LGS. Like, there's going to be some LGS owners who are like really like, hey, yeah, this is a new thing. I'm willing to try it. Let's give it a go. And others that might have a little bit more hesitance. But honestly, I think if we had an LGS in the DC area that had enough space, number one, and had proximity to public transit, and was kind of like met all the boxes I wanted to check for hosting our event. Because I went and did a rundown of like, hey, let's look at all the LGSs in the area, and unfortunately didn't find any that would actually meet the needs for the event we wanted to run. But if we had, like, I totally could have. That was the first place I looked for running the event in the first place, and so I think that's like just something to explore, on a kind of case by case basis. So, and there may be cases where like it is just the best way to go and run an event.
In that same vein, we've actually had conversations because we hosted successfully, through its little quirks and whatever may have happened, may have not happened, right? 2 events that have kind of fired well, and they've been profitable. The LGS has done well. That owners of other local gaming stores showed up for the event to be participants in those events and liked the vibe of what we're doing, have reached out and said that I want to do this at my store. The corner or the problem that we're dealing with is the local kind of regional aspects of these. We're going to scale back. So you have to kind of temper your expectations of who, like, Raleigh is a medium-ish city. We talked about this
It's before. A small city.
It's no DC. It's no Chicago.
No.
We can't get that. Even Madison's blowing us away, right? I mean, Pittsburgh, doesn't matter. Pick a city. We're not there. But then others saw that, and I kind of alluded to this idea of Uber Coastathon. That's another LGS. It might be near the beach. Might be in Wilmington. That liked what we did. They saw this idea. But now we got to talk about scaling issues, and I don't want to. It's a lot. I'm not a full-time Uber Cube participant here. This is my hobby, right? This is not. I am losing money on the daily basis to come do this show. Full disclosure, right? Like that idea, and then to invest the additional time. You want this to be fun, not to be work. But at the same time, I like what they want to do. So I had one talk to me like this Sunday. They want to do a mental health awareness and incorporate Cube into a con that's more of a modern feature that they do. And I don't want to talk about it. The details are very limited right now. But we're kind of in early talks of this idea. I don't want to take over a principal role there. But if I can just do like a 24-person pod and then raise some funds on an alternate weekend outside of Modern, I'm all for it, right? Like, that's a thing. Or Extra Life. We've done, Stu and I did Extra Life a couple of years back. We incorporated that for Duke's children. So it doesn't have to be like this grandiose event where you're trying to do all this planning. You're just kind of like a...
You can kind of piggyback onto something else.
You're a sideshow, right? You don't have to be the principal reason why people are coming out. But the people who are... your followers, the people who adore, that love the idea, what you're trying to promote, the charity, they will show up. Even if it's like that. What's that first year we did? The Gathering Place. Yeah, we did that in cooperation with Duke's Children's Health, and that was fun as heck.
Yeah, that was.
And we did the two-headed giant.
Which con
cube.
was that? Was that at SCG Richmond?
No, this was just literally in Durham. It was like for.
Oh, it was at the Durham Convention Center.
Yeah,
that's
so
right. That's right. That's right.
Strictly for the
it was a huge event that was going on.
We charged we didn't charge anything. We made nothing. I just showed up. But I want to say
they charged $20.
$20. Draft Uber Bears.
Draft the Artifact Cube or draft the Horror Cube.
Two-headed giant cube.
Two-headed giant cube.
They bought into that, and all that went to charity. That's it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, people over there are just literally playing whatever they're playing. They're all modern legacy grinders, right? They're there for the real money. But we're the sideshow. And that's okay, too.
Well, you say that, but like Nathan Stoyer was there, world champion Nathan Stoyer. He showed up, came and hang out with us, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are
DC
Cuban."
local
Nathan Stoyer, absolutely right. So he came over and he was like, "Oh, what you guys doing?" And we said, "Yeah, we've brought cubes out. We're going to cube, and it's for charity." He hung out with us, chatted with us about what we were doing, and he obviously likes his cube, and even other events that we've been to. Just to go and hang out with our friends, SCG Sun. We went to Charlotte, we went to Richmond, we went Corey Baumeister was there, Emma Partlow was over from the UK, Justin Parnell was there. There was a whole bunch of people that all of a sudden they find out like, oh, what are you guys doing here? Oh, we came here to Cube. Oh, we've got a room in this convention center. And we're all just going to go. Yeah, that was it. So it just ended up with Anthony and I and a bunch of other content creators and pro players who were like, all right, cool, we cube drafting? Like, yes, that's exactly what we're doing right now.
And I beat Stu's ass so bad that he thought about it the whole train ride home. I stomped.
That's just the cherry on top.
When was that?
I stomped you.
When was that?
Don't forget. It's trauma. Don't forget. It's okay. Never forget.
Anthony likes to make up things that didn't happen. We know, listen, we know about Anthony's fantasies about Cube.
My point is that your Cube event can be as big or as small.
Big or as small as you're interested in putting on.
It's literally like, what do I want to do here? I don't want to get, I don't know, what's a good number? We'll say a safe number. We'll say 24. 24 people. Show up.
Yep.
If you fall into 19, adjust. Kick your cubes. That's it. Let the others that kind of travel a little bit further, let them go.
Do you think there's a conversation about having an availability? Like, I've got, these 360 cubes. I know you've got larger cubes. I'm going to put together this 180 cube because you might just need a 4-player cube.
I don't think that's terrible, actually.
I think that's a great idea. Like, have a little 180 cube available if the numbers are a little short or a little large.
I think that's a great idea. That's not something that I've done for either of the events, just because I think we've assumed you're going to have pods 8, and if we have to kind of adjust and make one of 6 or whatever. I can mail you my 5 dragons walk into a bar for your filler. But
I'll send it out Monday. Filler cube.
Well, but it's funny though, because I had this. I was like, okay, we're gonna have just like 8-person cubes and have to have that assumption for kind of making everything work. And then both years I've had people submit cubes, for consideration that are like these really awesome 4-player cubes, and I feel so bad because I've had to reach out to them and say, hey, like this cube looks awesome. I want it there for the free play part because I want to play this. I literally went and played a 4-player cube, during the free play part when Top 8 was happening last year, and I would love to feature this, but for just the logistics, I don't want to finagling the different cube sizes was something I didn't want to have to deal with. But I totally think, especially if you're doing it at a smaller event of hey, we think we're going to have 20 people there. Great, that's 2 8s and a 4, and just sort people kind of according to that. That I think could totally be a viable way to do it, and allows for that kind of opportunity to showcase those cubes that otherwise we think of kind of just as oh no, you go and do that at the bar with your friends, and it's no, this could be part of a big event just like this, just like anything else can.
Yeah, I'm putting one together. It's happening.
I don't think it's terrible, actually.
I think it's a great idea.
I think you can actually adjust your expectations.
I think you need to be able to adjust to the numbers. One thing you should know is I say the number 64, expect 54. I mean, plan for the best, also expect the worst. It's not a bad thing to do. Have an out, right? So I think that depends on where you are, right? We seem to be in a black hole of cube for whatever reason. The Raleigh Durham area just does not have the density of cube players that some of the other cities have. We've talked to and listened to people who are in New York and in Boston or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, we advertised we got a 64-player cube event that we're trying to put together, and the tickets are gone in 5 minutes and the sign-up's over. We don't seem to have that luxury.
So as we kind of wrap this up, Lincoln, I want you to give some sage advice to how to run the most successful cube event that you can in your own words. I want you to go over the patterns of structure, how you chose your cubes. Just summarize everything.
Yeah. Okay. Tie it all up. Number one, the event can be any size you want, right? It can be small, it can be big. Aim for whatever you think your community can support. Number 2, just find a space that works for that. Number 3, for cubes, make sure you have a variety of cubes there. That kind of display the breadth and depth of what Cube has to offer, because you're going to have players who like some things and other players who don't like things. And I think number 4, we've offered a lot of advice here. I think that I wouldn't want anybody to walk away feeling like intimidated by this. Like, hey, this is a really hard thing to do. None of these events, these small, and medium-sized local cube events existed 2 years ago. Like literally, apart from a couple of ones that were, in Germany or Joe, who's been putting on his event in California for I think 3 years now. None of these existed, and all of them are being run by people who, at least as far as I can tell from talking to them, are not people who previously had any experience running events. I don't know if you guys did, but like that I had no experience running events.
Not even a little.
Nobody else.
I went straight up. Fortune favors the bold.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and so I think this all goes to show that despite there's a lot of moving pieces here, and you can make it as complicated as you want when trying to put this on, and some of that does scale with the size that your ambition. But at the end of the day, like all of us just started out being like, hey, I want to make this happen. I'm going to make it happen. We'll figure it out. And actually, like there's never been a better time than now, because now there's a whole community, not just of the people who go to CUBE events and of the kind of the greater CUBE community, but there's a community of people who have organized these events, who all of us are here and happy to offer advice and thoughts and feedback.
There is a CUBE organization Discord, actually. Yeah. You can find your dates.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So like there's lots of experience to draw on now, and lots of people who can say, hey, yeah, I tried that. It can work, or it won't work, or here's it can work if you do this. These are the risks associated. They can offer that advice, and so I would just kind of, if I had one final word to give everybody, it would be like, jump up and do it. If you think you would be interested in doing it, you should try, because I guarantee you, your community will.
One more little anecdote to add to you: the date selection, conflicts. How do you manage conflicts? I want to know that. So this is funny. It's a thing.
I don't have any good advice on this other than just like look at the calendar of Magic events. And even with that, especially with the increasing pace of releases, you're not going to be able to do it perfectly. So I, for example, looked at the calendar of, hey, when are all the big SCG cons happening? When are they don't call them GPs anymore, whatever the
Uber-Cubathons, these type things, right?
Yeah.
The big one.
RCQs, Pro Tours.
RCQs, all these things. So I looked at all these and, hey, okay, what's a free weekend of the calendar? What's a weekend that's not like a holiday? Like you don't want to do it like Labor Day weekend or something like that. And okay, great.
Valentine's
I found a weekend.
Day,
perfect.
Good God. I saw Valentine's Day recently. You want to get divorced? That's fast.
So I found a weekend and I'm like, okay, I looked at the release dates for every set and whatever. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm good. Little did I realize that, if you look at the release dates, if you go the week before a release date, that's actually pre-release weekend, and people are going to be out pre-releasing. So I scheduled the same weekend. I think next weekend is Spider-Man pre-release weekend.
It is. I don't think anybody cares. I'm not going to lie to you. You got lucky on that one.
I am not going to. I'm going to be cubing all weekend. I'm not doing any Spider-Man, but no disrespect to Spider-Man and his friends, but
it's like
all that to say, like
pods of 4 players. I think you'll be fine. You get some lags.
Well, all that to say, try to find a weekend that's open, but at the end of the day, you're never going to find a perfect weekend.
Yeah.
It really is most important just to put something on the calendar and go from there.
Get the word out. All right. Speaking of getting the word out, we are recording this, and it's going to be released on September the 15th of the year 2025. Lincoln, your event, tell us when, where, how, what. Give us the details. We're so excited for you in this event coming up.
Okay. It is Capital Cube Championship. You can find it online at capitalcube.org, or the link that I assume these guys will put in the doodly-doo down below. It will be on September 20th, Saturday, September 20th, here in Washington, D.C. We have beaten all our costs, so any tickets you buy now, 100% of the value of that ticket will go to charity, to Whitman Walker Health, to provide equitable health services for the people in need in D.C. So that is the pitch. We hope to see you there. I would love if we could max this event out and do some more good for Whitman Walker. That's it.
Wonderful. And again, you get to play Cube. You get to meet a bunch of cool people from the DC area. If you have to travel, or if you don't, then just go hang out with people that you maybe already know. And please, if you have the ability, go support this event. Lincoln is what we would consider to be a dear friend of the UberCube podcast and of ourselves, is just a wonderful, wonderful representative and member of this community, and is doing this incredible event. I just cannot speak highly enough. And And to me, these kind of things just really represent our community at the absolute highest level. Running a great event, doing it for the people that are going to enjoy it, and just supporting a great cause. So first of all, Lincoln, again, as always, thank you so much for coming and spending your time with us today. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it or appreciate you as a member of this wonderful community, and just the best of luck for your event. I would love to be there. I would show you what the mold in my bathroom that I've ripped apart looks like right now. Anthony got to see firsthand the disaster class that is my house and what I'm dealing with, but I'm sure you'll have a great time.
If you haven't seen the money pit.
The money
Tom
pit, yeah.
Hanks.
I am Tom Hanks right now.
Yeah, he is Tom Hanks.
And my wife, Shelley, my wife is Shelley.
Yeah.
Shelley?
All right, so...
Well, I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And we'll miss you guys there, but look forward to cubing again together in the future.
Heck yeah. All right, as always, a huge thanks to all of our Patreons, to Patrick, to Jeff Stumpo, to Chris Fitzgerald, Timber Dragon, Brian Christensen, Keaton Schultz, Lord Justice, Nick Lapointe. Thank you to all of you for the ongoing support and helping us keep the lights on here at the Uber Cube podcast. As always, get in on the discussion at the Facebook MTG drafting page at facebook.com/groups/MTGcube. Are you at 2,000 members yet? I mean, we've been at 1,000 for a long
1,200
time.
something.
1,200. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually got new ones today.
A new one. I'm
half.
seeing like one and a half,
we got
2 a day,
1.5 a day,
1.5 a day, about the average.
Saw and a half.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Saw and a half. It's a great reference. If you want to support the show, you can also use our inkedgaming.com/UberCube affiliate link for your placemats, dice bags, mouse pads, all kinds of custom and large volume products available. Hit us up on the socials. You can reach us at Twitter at UberCubeMTGPod or at Bluesky, UberCubeMTGPodcast.bsky.social. If you got a longer question or comment about this episode or any other, you can reach us at ubercubemtgpodcast@gmail.com. As always, a big thanks to our Patreons at patreon.com/ubercube. I'm going to keep saying Patreons. I don't care.
In the arms of the Patreons.
Anthony's going to just keep doing that, aren't you? You can find us at YouTube, Ubercube MTG Podcast 747. You crazy, you lunatic. And as always, come hang out with us on the Discord and look out for our new, apparently, Basic Lands channel. Swap Your Basics.
I'm working on Swap Yo Basics.
Swap Yo Basics.
Swap Yo Basics.
I love it.
All right. Other than that, we're going to say the thing that we always say here at Ubercube is
Happy cubing.
Capital
Cube
champions.
God.
Guy.